Today, class, we will be discussing the inheritance of disorders. Now we're going to talk about X-linked disorders. X-linked disorders arise from mutations on the X chromosome. Because people usually inherit either two X's or an X and a Y, patterns of expression of X-linked disorders are different depending on the dominance of the mutation in the sex chromosomes that are inherited. There are two types of X-linked disorders that I'm going to talk about: recessive and dominant. Of recessive X-linked disorders are hemophilia and color blindness. Hemophilia is the inability to coagulate blood, and color blindness is the inability to see certain colors. Because biological women have two X chromosomes, the mutation on one X does not produce symptoms because in every cell in the body, one X is inactivated. This means that some cells have the mutation, but other cells don't, and their functionality overpowers the relative non-functionality of the cells that express the X chromosome with the mutation. As we can see here, the inheritance pattern often skips one generation. In the case that the male displays the disorder, then he will pass an X chromosome down to his daughter, who may have two X chromosomes, one without the mutation and one with, and then she may pass that on to a son, who then only has one X chromosome and displays the disorder. X-linked dominant disorders are much less common than X-recessive. An example is Aicardi syndrome, in which people are born without the corpus callosum, the primary brain structure connecting the two hemispheres. X-linked dominant traits do not affect males more frequently than females. If an affected woman has children, then half of her daughters and half of her sons will have the disorder. They will be past the X chromosome that has a mutation, of which only one is required to display the disease. If an affected man has children, then none of his sons will get the X chromosome with the mutation, but all of his daughters will. Any questions?
Autosomal dominant disorders. Examples include Huntington's disease. So Huntington's disease is a genetic disorder that causes uncontrolled movements, difficulty concentrating or thinking, personality changes, and physical degeneration. It usually appears in afflicted persons' 30s or 40s, but early onset Huntington's is also possible. Afflicted individuals usually live anywhere from 10 to 20 years after onset, depending on how early it appeared. The mutation causes a certain sequence of DNA proteins to repeat themselves 36 to 120 times. If there are only 36 to 39 repetitions, onset may not occur. Over 40 repetitions almost always result in onset of Huntington's disease. With more repetitions being caused in early onset cases and those with a greater family history of the gene, it is possible that only 27 to 35 repetitions will occur, in which case they themselves are not at risk, but their children may still inherit and manifest the disease. Any questions?
Autosomal recessive traits. In autosomal recessive traits, both copies of the gene are present in the offspring. So parents of the individual have to have at least one of these traits present. An example of this is sickle cell anemia.
One.
Sickle cell is made up of 2 subunits. Alpha globin and beta globin. In sickle cell, one of these subunits is mutated. So instead of the gene HBB, one of the subunits is HBS, HBC, or HBE.